49ers Cowboys, for the first time since 1998, they are in the playoffs simultaneously. That, to me, is a wild stat because this rivalry used to be all about perennial contention for both teams. Throughout the 90s, of course, that was the case. In the 80s, the 49ers were good and the Cowboys weren't. It was really the catch game in January 1982 that knocked the Cowboys into a little bit of a tailspin. I mean, I think they made the playoffs once more after that, but they had to resurrect under Jimmy Johnson later in the decade, and that's when they challenged the 49ers in the early 90s. But then you go back all the way to the 70s, and that was more of a decade of the Cowboys, obviously, before the 49ers had won a single Super Bowl, and the Cowboys were winning multiple Super Bowls, and the Cowboys were beating the 49ers with Roger Staubach in 1971 and 1972. That was with Craig Morton and Staubach under Tom Landry, the initial massive quarterback controversy in NFL history. And then obviously you had Montana and Young, and that one stretched out into Cowboys 49ers of the 1990s. So the history here is off the charts. 49ers Cowboys in the early 80s with the catch with Dwight Clark, that meant even more than football to the city of San Francisco. That's something I'll go over in this video and maybe even make a separate video for. This is why you should subscribe, because sometimes it's just stream of consciousness for me. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I got to make a video about this because there's so many different storylines, the 49ers and Cowboys. So I think here over the course of Saturday before this game, I might come up with something else. But this one is going to be focused on the game. This one is going to be focused on how the 49ers can beat the Dallas Cowboys and move on to the divisional round of the playoffs. To answer questions that are already popping up, I think it was 1994 was the last time they played each other in the playoffs. That's January 1995, yes, 1994 season. But both the 49ers and Cowboys simultaneously last qualified for the playoffs in 1998. They didn't play in 98, but they both were in it. I think the Cowboys were eliminated in the wild card round that season, and the 49ers in 1998, that was the year of the TO catch against the Green Bay Packers. Really what happened in the 90s is that from 92 to 94, you had the 49ers and Cowboys square off in the playoffs multiple times in a row, right? 3 seasons in a row. The winner of that game ended up winning the Super Bowl. So the Cowboys in 92 and 93 won. The 49ers in 94 won. And that was the Super Bowl. The NFC Championship game was the world title game. There was a changing in the guard after 1994. And the changing of the guard meant that it was the Cowboys who were always beating the Packers, but the Packers were coming in and always beating the 49ers. And even though the 49ers in that 94 season started getting the Cowboys number, the Packers would always knock the 49ers out. So you had the Packers and the 49ers play 4 straight seasons in the playoffs immediately on the heels of the 49ers-Cowboys rivalry. So from 92 to 94, you had Cowboys-49ers. Then from 95 to 98, that's 4 years, 95, 96, 97, 98, you had 49ers-Packers. And the Packers won 3 straight against the 49ers before the 49ers finally got them with the TO catch game in 1998. That was technically January 1999. And that was the last season that the Cowboys and 49ers overlapped in the postseason. But because the Packers and the 49ers were engaged in their rivalry at the time, they played in the wild card round. Because the Cowboys played somebody else, I don't know if it was the Vikings or whoever it was, and obviously both of those teams lost before they advanced to wherever they would have faced each other. They didn't have that epic showdown, and it wouldn't have been as epic as it was back in 1994 or 1995 because, Aikman's career was already on the downslope. But all those guys for the Cowboys, their career was on the downslope already at that point. So this was something that defined the 1990s, and now it's back. There were slight fireworks later on, 2000. You saw Jeff Garcia go into Texas Stadium, throw 4 touchdown passes. Terrell Owens ran out to the midfield star at Texas Stadium. That was great. That's, 49ers fans love that one. But, that 49ers team didn't even make the playoffs that year. So much for that. You could fast forward to 2014. Colin Kaepernick, season opener, outplays Tony Romo with an electric performance. ton of 49ers fans at the new stadium now at Jerry's World in Arlington. That's where the game is going to be played on Sunday. So that was a lot of fun for 49ers fans. But again, that 2014 team also didn't make the playoffs. That was the final season of the Harbaugh era. And those are really the only two games that are somewhat memorable following the hot war between the Cowboys and the 49ers of the 1990s. You had the Owens game and the 2014 Kaepernick Harbaugh game in the final season of Jim Harbaugh. Beyond that, you kind of just shrug. I mean, nobody's going to ever remember 2020, 10 years from now. That was Nick Mullins starting, and I think hurting his elbow in that game against Andy Dalton for the Cowboys, because both Garoppolo and Dak Prescott had suffered career-ending injuries. So that was merely the prelude for what we get on Sunday. And now both quarterbacks are back in. They're both healthy. I got to write a little bit about that this week. I think that's going to be right here. Yeah, there we go. Jimmy Garoppolo and Dak Prescott take center stage in what's long been a QB-centric 49ers-Cowboys rivalry. And this is our observation piece with the 10 predictions. That's Garoppolo and Kittle, I believe. That looks like the game in Seattle this year after that game-opening touchdown. I popped up the old Dwight Clark Memorial Service article from Grace Cathedral because there was a lot of stuff about the catch and about its impact on the community of San Francisco back in January 1982, which is something that we may talk about in this video as well. And then, of course, there's this one, the Center Stage article. This is what we're talking about, 49ers Cowboys from the 1990s. Those of you who are astute viewers will know exactly which game this was from, because Deion Sanders is in that Cowboys uniform and Jerry Rice is in the 49ers uniform. They're obviously at Texas Stadium because they're inside in this game. I think you could tell from the lighting. So this is obviously post 1994 because Sanders was with the 49ers in 94, but then he signed a big contract with the Dallas Cowboys in 95 and played with them essentially right for the rest of the millennium, I guess you could say, because Y2K was coming up in about 5 years that time. So Deion Sanders played for $1.2 million for the 49ers in 1994. Let that sink in. 49ers in 94, that was, when the salary cap was getting started. That's when, just a year after free agency, unrestricted free agency became a thing in the NFL. And the 49ers had been the team of the 80s, and they wanted to make sure that they can compete with Dallas in the 90s. So they started handing out signing bonuses. Eddie DeBartolo Jr. borrowed $10 million of cash from his dad, from Eddie DeBartolo Sr., so the 49ers could start subverting the salary cap with Carmen policy. And they had to get Deion Sanders on a discount. I mean, you can only run for the cap for so long. And at some point, you have to convince players to sign for less money. And Deion Sanders was one of the players that signed for less money, $1.2 million. But the 49ers were only able to keep him for a season, because after that he wanted to get paid, and he did get paid something like a $35 million contract with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones gave that money. That was huge at the time. So Deion was the ultimate mercenary, bouncing around from team to team, from first the Falcons, then to the 49ers, then to the Cowboys. And some trivia, and I'm sure a lot of you remember this, in the offseason after the 49ers won the Super Bowl, and they beat the Cowboys, obviously, on their way to that title in the NFC Championship game, Deion Sanders was still playing Major League Baseball at the time. And he played for the San Francisco Giants in the summer of 1995. Came over from the Cincinnati Reds, right, in the summer of 1995. And that was before he had signed the contract with the Cowboys to play football for them in the fall of 1995. So at the time, the 49ers and Carmen Policy, their GM, and Eddie DeBartolo Jr., the owner, were trying to work with the San Francisco Giants to find a way to keep Deion Sanders in the Bay Area. See if they could get him to a multi-year extension with the San Francisco Giants to allow the 49ers to pay him a little bit less so he would stay with the 49ers and, be under the salary cap so the team could make that work. So just think about how wild that would have been, and think about how wild it is that was even being considered, that the 49ers and Giants were talking about some kind of joint offer to Deion Sanders to keep him around. But obviously didn't happen. He took the big money from Jerry Jones, and that added some more spice to the 49ers Cowboys rivalry moving forward. In the 1995 game that we're talking about, when Sanders was already on the Dallas team, the 49ers walked into Texas Stadium, the old home of the Dallas Cowboys, and they didn't have Steve Young. They had Elvis Grbac starting, and they won 38-20. I believe they jumped out to a 24-0 lead in that game. So that's when you talk to 49ers fans, of course, they're going to talk about the NFC Championship win over Dallas in January of 95. But it was what happened later in November, I believe, of that same year in the regular season. That was a game a lot of fans are secretly, I don't want to say more proud of, but that's like the hipster game to like, right? Everybody knows about when Steve Young vanquished the Cowboys and was running around the field, knocking over the cameraman as he was pumping his fist because he finally got the Cowboys monkey off his back. Everybody knows about that. But if you're a true football hipster, then you appreciate when Elvis Grbac went in a few months later during the regular season and beat the Dallas Cowboys, jumped out to a 24-0 lead. 49ers knocked Troy Aikman out of that game with an injury, and they shocked the eventual world champions. Now, the only reason that we didn't get 49ers Cowboys Part 4 in the 1995 postseason is because the Packers upset the 49ers in the divisional round. And then the Packers were never able to beat the Cowboys. I mean, once they were able to get all the way to the Super Bowl, they were able to overcome the rest of the NFC. But in general, it was the Cowboys at the time who had the Packers number, and the Cowboys in 95 obviously beat Green Bay and went on to win the Super Bowl that year, I believe, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then it was Green Bay's season the following year, 1996. And then following that, Denver finally ended the long NFC streak in 1997, beating Green Bay. But there were like 12 or 13 straight years there where the Super Bowl champion came from the NFC. So that it was just, those are wild times. Now we have so much parity around the league. You'll never see the same conference win the Super Bowl for 12 or 13 straight years. Just won't happen. That's just not how it can work in the NFL. You don't know who's going to be good, who's going to be terrible from one week to the next. The Jacksonville Jaguars can go out there and, knock out the playoff contending Indianapolis Colts. I mean, the 49ers can lose to the fighting Colt McCoys and the Arizona Cardinals in week 9. It was much more rare to see good playoff teams be so volatile back in the 1990s because the salary cap was just taking hold. The parity in the league was not as great as it was today. And because of that, you saw crazy things like the NFC winning 13 straight Super Bowls. So those were the days. The NFC Championship game was the Super Bowl and the Pro Bowl all wrapped into one. And the 49ers and the Cowboys certainly had some fun with it. All right, guys, we are ready to preview this game. I know that I've rambled on about my childhood in the NFL for a while now, but let some viewers get in here. We'll call this a late night Lombardi episode, right? Because it's 10:25 p.m. on the West Coast. So yeah, this is some late night magic right here as we go through the 49ers and Cowboys keys. Key one for the 49ers, handle Dallas's edge rush. The Cowboys are excellent coming off the edge. In fact, that is their strength. These guys have DeMarcus Lawrence, who's been around forever, number 90. Look out for him because he can roar around the edge. He can beat defensive tackles, and he can also stop the run. That's the one thing about DeMarcus Lawrence. He's the most complete defensive lineman and pass rusher on this Dallas team because he can play the run and he can get after the passer coming off the edge. Randy Gregory, I mean, this guy is legit. 6'5", long strides, has all the tools to be a nightmare for opposing offensive tackles, and especially if Randy Gregory's getting some work against Tom Compton, right tackle for the 49ers on Sunday. He's a guy that's going to create some headaches. He's done a good job. And then you have Micah Parsons for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he's technically a strong side linebacker, but he is all over the formation. He blitzes the edges. On the tape I watched this week, studying Micah Parsons, he's coming through the A-gap. He can cover a little bit. If there's one weakness to Micah Parsons, it's the run defense, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But he could sure get after the passer. He's got explosiveness. He's got twitch. he's got that nose for the quarterback and that nose for how to get around potential blockers. And the Dallas Cowboys front, they run so many stunts. And I mean, they just bring complicated pressure, fast, complicated pressure that can get to you really quick. And that's fueled this defense this season. This is the stat that really jumps out at you. Dallas has a league leading 26 interceptions. Trevon Diggs, their cornerback, has a league leading 11 interceptions in the individual category. And Dallas also has a league leading 34 takeaways. So these guys just are ball hawks. They specialize in interceptions. They specialize in strip sacks. And the genesis of all that is the edge rush, right? So you have to be able to handle the Dallas edge rush if you're going to be able to beat this football team. Now, how do you handle the edge rush? Well, two ways. A, Jimmy Garoppolo has to release the ball quickly. 2.4 seconds from snap to release against the Rams. That was great. And the 49ers, obviously, down the stretch, looked really good in that football game offensively. They didn't look so good at the start because they had two backup tackles. They'll have Trent Williams back this time, which I think is really necessary against a team like the Dallas Cowboys, just because they are so strong at the edge. But the Cowboys pass rush is different than the Rams pass rush because there is no Aaron Donald up the middle. So the Cowboys aren't as good up the middle. They've got Neville Gallimore and Carlos Watkins as their defensive tackles. Neither of those two guys are named Aaron Donald, and they're not even close to number 99's ability. So the 49ers have to realize that although Dallas is really strong off the edges, that there is the productivity to be gained up the middle. You can run inside zone on Dallas. You can hit them with quick hitters, right up the middle. Kyle Juszczyk may get a couple carries in this game. Just blast up the middle, see if you can get those 5-6 free yards. And when you do expose the middle, because I don't think Leighton Vander Esch was playing good football at the linebacker level for Dallas, when you do expose the middle, that can also open up outside zone. So the Rams are a better run defense than the Dallas Cowboys because they are stronger up the middle thanks to Aaron Donald. In fact, look at this right here. This is the Cowboys' statistical profile. Everything is blue, which is above average. So for the second straight week, the 49ers are playing a team without a pronounced weakness. But you can tell that some stuff is lighter blue, and those are the areas that the 49ers have to attack. Cowboys' run defense is the weakest phase of their game. They're rated at number 16. If they were number 17, they'd be in light red here. They'd be below average. So the Cowboys are mediocre when it comes to run defense. They don't tackle well on the back end. Their cornerbacks are better at picking the ball off than tackling. And when you look at the defensive linemen for the Dallas Cowboys, they are simply better pass rushers than they are run defenders, except for number 90, DeMarcus Lawrence. But you can run at Parsons, 11. You can run at Gregory, number 94. Parsons is worse than Gregory in run defense, but I still think you could run at Gregory. I still think you could run at Gallimore up the middle, and you could run at Carlos Watkins, the defensive tackle, up the middle. You probably see what I'm getting at here. The Cowboys have a better pass defense than they have run defense. And if the 49ers can play this game on their terms, then they're going to be able to run on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we know that it's never as simple as that because the Cowboys, even if they're not a great run defense, they can still stack the box if that's all the 49ers are doing. To run well, you have to pass well. So that puts a lot of pressure on this guy on the left, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to have to pass well again, just like he did down the stretch against the Rams. And to do that, he's going to have to win the aggression match with Trevon Diggs. We talk about Diggs and his leading 11 interceptions. What I haven't mentioned yet is that Diggs has also given up over 1,000 receiving yards on the season. This is a boom or bust cornerback. The 49ers and Garoppolo cannot be afraid to go after this guy. If you do, then you play right into Dallas's hands. And, it basically turns into a Richard Sherman situation back in his prime where he shut off half of the field. When one corner can shut off half of the field, everything else gets constricted and your offense loses efficiency. So it's imperative for the 49ers to go after Diggs and win the aggression battle with him. That's up to Garoppolo. Garoppolo's going to have to play a good game. Garoppolo's going to have to go out there and take calculated chances against this cornerback situation for Dallas. If there's a pick, so be it. Just don't let there be 2 or 3, right? Joe Montana threw 3 interceptions in the 1982 NFC Championship game before he threw the touchdown to Dwight Clark. Nobody ever talks about that. Nobody ever talks about the fact that Joe Montana had a 2.7% career interception rate. Guess what Jimmy Garoppolo's interception rate in 2019 and 2021, his 2 full seasons, is? 2.7%. Picks are not the worst thing in the world if they are product of calculated risks. I'm not sitting here defending some of Jimmy Garoppolo's picks. I think that he didn't calculate the risk against the Titans properly when he forced that ball into George Kittle in the end zone. That was a bad interception. But some picks are just going to happen. You can't fully avoid them in the NFL. So the 49ers in this game have to win the efficiency battle. That's crucial. And to win the efficiency battle against a guy like Diggs, you have to maximize the booms and minimize the busts. So don't freak out at one interception. But yes, of course, you should be upset if Garoppolo goes out and throws 2, 3, 4 picks, whatever. But the context of the picks is going to matter. And if they could get production to go with some of their risks in this game, the 49ers can burn this Dallas defense. But just remember, league leading 26 interceptions. The Cowboys are waiting. So you got to block, you got to run, you got to be balanced, right? Against the Rams, the 49ers were balanced. Garoppolo threw 32 times. The 49ers also ran 10 straight times on the drive that won the game. And I think the Cowboys are a team that you can kind of beat into submission with that run game, but you have to pass well to get to that point. You have to deliver on third down to get to the point of rushing the football. I mean, the most impressive stat with Garoppolo is since 2017, since he has joined the 49ers, there's only one quarterback in the NFL who has a better EPA on third and fourth downs, and that's Patrick Mahomes. That should tell you so much about Jimmy Garoppolo. On the quarterbacks down, he has executed to the level that the 49ers can unlock their run game. So if he can do that again against Dallas, I think they're going to be in position to avoid these interceptions and in position to move the ball against a defense that has vulnerabilities. They might put up big numbers, but the Cowboys certainly have vulnerabilities, both on the ground, giving up 4.5 yards per carry, and through the air, they're giving up a lot of explosive plays. It's boom or bust. Maximize the booms. Key number 4. Now we're switching over to the defensive side of the ball. Force Dak Prescott to fit the ball into tight windows with good man coverage. Dak Prescott's been really good throughout his career against zone coverage, and the 49ers play a lot of zone. But as their cornerbacks, Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Mosley, get more and more comfortable, the 49ers have to shift to more man coverage. In fact, there has been a shift over the past few years to more man coverage across the whole league and within the 49ers too. It's no longer this, exclusively cover 3 team that it was back in 2017 and 2018. And funny enough, the Cowboys aren't either. Dan Quinn, who's their defensive coordinator, was with Seattle back in 2013 and 2014, and Robert Saleh worked under him. And obviously Dan Quinn was a Seattle-style 4-3 cover 3 guy. That's why this edge rushing is so important for the Cowboys, because that's a Dan Quinn defense. It's important for the 49ers as well. But Dan Quinn, who's now the coordinator of the Cowboys, just took over this year and has overseen a big defensive turnaround following the Mike Nolan era. He's actually gone away from his staple of cover 3 because that's not where the league is going. Quarterbacks are beating the zone coverage now. Garoppolo's been excellent against any cover 3 he's faced this year. Dak Prescott's been good against any cover 3 that he's faced this year. You have to move to more man coverage, which is why you've seen the 49ers cornerback profile change. They're no longer drafting exclusively 6'3 guys at cornerback. They're going with more press man guys like Ambry Thomas. Well, it's time for that skill set to shine, because I don't think the 49ers can get away with playing zone in this game against Dak Prescott. You're going to have to force him to fit the ball into small windows, which is something that I think Prescott can struggle with. The guy's got a big arm. The guy's been able to hit big passes downfield. The Cowboys are a nice and explosive offense to CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. But when it comes to forcing that ball into small windows, Dak Prescott, he's not a Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo's really good at those small window throws, right, with his release. I don't think Prescott's release is on Garoppolo's level. And I think the 49ers can force him into a Garoppolo-type game. If you can make those windows tight and that pass rush comes roaring in, I think you can get Dak Prescott to play a subpar game. And this is where part of that belief comes through. This is Dak Prescott's efficiency over the years. And the bottom line is Dak Prescott's efficiency weeks 9 to 17 of this season after he returned from a calf strain. Now, remember, blue is good and red is bad. There is red across the board. So it's efficiency, accuracy, style across the board from weeks 9 to 17. Now, Dak was good against the Eagles in week 18, but the Eagles were also resting all of their starters. So not all their starters, most. I mean, the Eagles weren't playing for anything. Let's keep it at that. Dak just simply has been in a very long slump this year. He started the year well, so you see that this is mostly blue. And if you only had the weeks 1 through 6 splits, then they would be really good for Dak Prescott. He was an offensive player of the year candidate at the time, but it hasn't been great from the calf strain moving forward, with the exception of last week's game against the Eagles. So this is something to really keep an eye out on, right? Which Dak Prescott is going to show up and face the 49ers. And the 49ers can ensure, or go a long way toward ensuring, that it's not as great of a version of Dak Prescott if they force him to fit the ball into tight windows, if that coverage is on point. So we'll see what DeMeco Ryan schemes up. This is another thing that's going to be a prerequisite: full throttle pass rush. The 49ers are number 2 in the NFL in sacks since week 8. Nick Bosa got snubbed from the All-Pro team. That was absolutely ridiculous. Bosa leads the league in tackles for loss, and he's been double-teamed more than any other edge rusher in the NFL. You would think that those two things put together, never mind the fact that he also has 15 and a half sacks, which is prolific, but you would think that those two things put together would, at the very least, give Nick Bosa more than 5 out of 50 possible All-Pro votes. But no, he only got 5 votes, and Max Crosby beat him out, which is a total joke, because if you talk to any talent evaluator in the NFL, any GM, and even Mike Mayock, off the record, he wouldn't say it on the record, but even the Raiders guy, if you ask them, who had the better year, who would you rather have on your team, and you put, Max Crosby and Nick Bosa side by side, every single guy, including Mayock, would pick Nick Bosa. So this All-Pro situation, I mean, talk about an admission that you don't watch the games. But anyway, if the 49ers can continue bringing the heat the same way that they have over the past several games, with Arden Key, Jordan Willis, Sansom Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Kevin Givens, all these guys bringing pressure. I mean, Eric Armstead had 2.5 sacks last game, and we think of him as a run stopper because he's one of the best in the league. Him and DJ Jones are 1 and 3. I think it's Jones 1, Armstead 3 in run stop win rate from ESPN. I mean, those guys set the table for the pass rush, but boy, do they do a good job setting the table. And then the rest of these guys are feasting. So Dallas has Ezekiel Elliott. Dallas has Pollard running the ball. Even Prescott has taken off and ran the ball a little bit lately. But look what the 49ers have in response. This is the 49ers run defense. And I can make this bigger for you guys so we can maybe take up the whole screen. There we go. This is the XY chart for run defense and pass defense. So pass defense is on the X, so you want to be further to the right. You could see the 49ers are a little bit below average pass defense, but I think it might be improving, especially with this pass rush surging. Remember, this is since week 7. This is since the bye. So since the bye, since the 49ers have really started moving Eric Armstead inside to work with DJ Jones, look at the vertical axis. Look at where their run defense is. It's the best in the league. And again, DJ Jones 1, Armstead number 3 amongst defensive tackles and run stop win rate. So if you could kind of cut this Dallas offense out from the roots, if the 49ers continue stopping the run at the efficiency that we've seen so far this season. And that starts with Armstead. It continues with, DJ Jones, and it goes on to all those depth pieces. Kentavious Street, haven't mentioned him yet. He's been huge for the 49ers this year. All of those guys combine, and Sansom Ebukam, I mean, that guy's been setting edges against the run. He's been doing a good job. We have to mention that. But all of those guys combined have created this wall up front that's been the number 1 ranked run defense in the NFL. And if that keeps up, Ezekiel Elliott's going to struggle to find room on Sunday, and the Dallas Cowboys offensively are going to be in pass-first situation. You put Dak Prescott in a pass-first situation, I don't care who's in front of you as an offensive line. The 49ers did this to the Rams last week. Number 1 rated pass-protecting offensive line in football. LA couldn't run the ball against the 49ers. 49ers pinned their ears back. They hit Stafford 13 times. They sacked Stafford 5 times. And by the end of the game, Stafford was squeamish in the pocket. He was inaccurate. He threw way, way behind Odell Beckham on the game-sealing interception to Ambry Thomas. But even on shorter passes, Matthew Stafford wasn't accurate. I think you could do the same thing to Dak Prescott if you hit him 13 times. I think really any quarterback, if he's hit 13 times, is going to get less accurate. So the key for the 49ers is absolutely full throttle pass rush, but it's got to work hand in hand with that coverage. It's going to take the full effort to shut down CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and don't forget one of Prescott's favorite outlet men, the Stanford tight end, Dalton Schultz. I mean, he's a guy that you watch tape on the Cowboys, he's catching a lot of those last gasp passes when the pass rush is closing in on Dak Prescott. My key number 6, I already talked about. Maintain the NFL's number 1 run defense. And that's what you see on the screen right here. That is a number 1 run defense for the San Francisco 49ers. So that is the start of everything for this football team is the run defense. It allows the 49ers to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. Number 7, this is a hidden key, and it shouldn't be so hidden based on how prolifically the 49ers have struggled on special teams during some big games this year, especially that game against Seattle. You absolutely cannot let Dallas win the special teams battle in this game. The Cowboys are number 6 in special teams DVOA. The 49ers are like number 27. If that plays out according to the ranking, the 49ers probably lose this game. Now, they played well on special teams against the Rams. They got heroic performances from, Robbie Gould. We should probably get Robbie Gould up on the screen here. This is going to be a good one right here. Surviving the roller coaster, unheralded performances that put the 49ers in the playoffs. Robbie Gould punted for the 49ers. Now they're expecting Mitch Wishnowsky to be back from concussion protocol. We'll know officially on Saturday. So that'll be good for the 49ers, but they still have to cover the punts. They still have to cover the kicks. They still have to make field goals. Now, Dallas, despite the good ranking on special teams, there's been some struggles for their kicker, Greg Zuerlein. He's missed some big kicks this year, especially in games they've lost by 3 points. So that is something to keep an eye out on. I think, in a game that is probably evenly matched on paper on offense and defense when you look at the efficiency. And obviously I showed you guys the efficiency table, the DVOA table a little bit earlier. I mean, I'll go through the 49ers rankings here. You see the Cowboys are 6 on offense. The 49ers are 5. The Cowboys are 2 on defense. The 49ers are 7 or 8. So that's fairly even, right, between the two teams. It's the special teams that is the big outlier. The Cowboys are 6 and the 49ers are 27. And that's why the Cowboys are number 1 overall, whereas the 49ers are like number 7 overall, right? DVOA 1 versus 7. But if the 49ers can play the special teams at least to a draw in this game, then I think it's as toss-up as ever. You could erase the 3-point spread. The Cowboys are 3-point favorites, but if the 49ers can play this game to a draw on special teams, it really, really is a coin flip. Finally, key 8, embrace the moment. This is 49ers Dallas. This is the history that you see up on the screen. The 49ers this week, I thought, did something really cool. Most of these players, probably with the exception of Robbie Gould, are too young to remember the 49ers-Cowboys rivalry of the 1990s. Robbie Gould is definitely old enough to remember that. He's 39. So I know because I remember the end of it, I'm 33. So I'm sure Robbie Gould remembers those games in 92, 93, and 1994. The 49ers during team meetings this week would always show a clip from the old Cowboys 49ers rivalry games of past, of the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s to really get people fired up and to give them an idea of perspective and what history meant in this rivalry. And they showed them the catch, the January 1982 catch, Joe Montana to Dwight Clark. But what Chris Foerster, the 49ers offensive line coach, did was extra interesting. He made sure that the clip kept on playing even after Dwight Clark made the catch. Because, as you might remember, those of you who were watching in 1982 or those of you who have watched the replay, that game was not over with the catch. That game still had about a minute left to go, and the 49ers led 28-27 at that point. It was imperative that the 49ers stopped the Dallas Cowboys, and they were really, really close to not stopping them at the time. There was a completed pass to Cowboys receiver Drew Pearson. that would have broken for a touchdown, that would have completely changed the arc of history and the way that we talk about that game, had 49ers cornerback Eric Wright not registered a touchdown saving tackle. On the very next play, Lawrence Pillars, the 49ers defensive lineman, yielded a strip sack, and Jim Stuckey, 49ers defensive lineman, recovered that fumble. And finally, that game was over and the 49ers were going to the Super Bowl. But not many people talk about that, right? They all talk about the catch with Dwight Clark. Well, Chris Foersters, the 49ers offensive line coach, made sure that everybody was watching what happened after the catch in the 49ers meeting room. And that's the 49ers way of making sure that they're embracing the moment. And that's my final key. This is a huge rivalry. It's being resurrected after about a quarter century of, dormant status. And it's absolutely time for the 49ers to embrace what this rivalry means. Embrace what it meant for the city of San Francisco in 1982, coming off of all those tragedies, the Jonestown Massacre in the late 1970s, the assassination of Harvey Milk and Mayor George Moscone in the 70s. I mean, the 70s were a time of turmoil around America, but especially in San Francisco. When you talk to anybody about the importance of beating the Cowboys in 1982 as far as a unifying factor for the city, they'll go out and say that this was a huge deal. This transcended football. So it's important for the 49ers to realize, that this is not just a game for a lot of people. For a lot of people that are watching this, I mean, especially at times like these, it's been a rough couple of years. People are looking to sports as kind of their escape from reality. And you could probably draw some parallels to what happened back in 1982, where it was a huge deal when the 49ers would win, when, sports were kind of the embodiment of civic pride and culture. And I think that the 49ers might realize that this game against Dallas might kind of give us a taste of the past when, it was such a big deal. And I think that if the 49ers do embrace the moment, embrace the tradition of this rivalry, we're going to be set up for a hell of a show at the palace known as Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium, on Sunday. So those are my keys to the game, guys. I could talk about more. I could go through some questions, which I probably will. I've just opened up the comment section. It might be a war zone in there. Maybe yes, maybe not. I'm going to look at a few of these and make sure that you sign up for the YouTube channel here. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to The Athletic. And I will answer some of these questions and hold a Q&A tomorrow. Now, again, every time I go to the comment section, I ask, are there actually questions or are people just arguing? And right here, I do not see any questions. You guys are literally just arguing. You guys need to actually talk about football right here. Good. Derek Bean. Thank you. Thanks so much. Everybody be more like Derek. Where is Trent Williams percentage-wise? Chances of re-injury? I think he's above 90%. I think he's ready to go. I don't know what the chances of re-injury are, but he's wearing the tape on his right elbow. He wasn't ready to go last week, and I think he's ready to go this week. I would guess 90%. I don't think he'll be fully 100%. Anywhere between 80 and 90 might be a safe bet. Hey, Joe, what's going on? I know, Joe. Do you anticipate Kittle staying back to block more than getting out for routes? Seems like we'll need his blocking ability to help keep Jimmy safe. So, yeah, you're referring to max protect. That's what the Titans ran a lot against the 49ers. So the 49ers run a lot against good pass rushing teams because their own pass blocking isn't great. I do see George Kittle staying back to help because you have that luxury when you had Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Jawan Jennings downfield. That being said, when Kittle does stay back to max protect, he's got to get the job done. I mean, he got plowed there against the Rams on that one, the Garoppolo fumble when they came in and knocked the ball away from Jimmy. And I get it. He's working against defensive linemen that are a lot heavier than him. So it's probably not George's fault, but schematically, the 49ers need to make sure that George is in position to succeed. And that means make sure that he's just helping an offensive lineman and not taking on a guy that's 50 to 60 pounds heavier than him in straight up pass protection 2 feet away from Jimmy Garoppolo. Because if you're going to do that with George Kittle, if you're asking him to do that, you might as well just ask him to run a pass pattern because you're just wasting his receiving abilities if he's not actually effectively blocking out there. So I do think that we'll see some max protect in this game, but the biggest protection and the most effective protection and the most effective mitigator of any pass rush is Jimmy Garoppolo's ability to release the ball quickly. It's on Jimmy. Jimmy is a guy that can win with both backup tackles in there. He's proven that time and time again. He beat the Rams in 2019 with both backup tackles. He beat him again last week with both backup tackles. He's going to have Trent back in this game, but the Cowboys can still bring the heat. So it's going to be imperative that the 49ers in this football game get rid of the ball, because Kittle or not in the offensive backfield, the Cowboys' edge rush is going to be roaring and the stunts are going to be coming and Garoppolo is going to have to process quickly. So a lot of that is going to have to be on him. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo does have one of the quickest releases of all quarterbacks. I think Big Ben was also around 2.4 seconds this year, but Jimmy Garoppolo is right around that time. That is the strength of the 49ers quarterback. Just glad that the 49ers are healthy. This is probably the healthiest they've been in a long, long time, maybe since week 1. Well, you say that no more than 22 attempts for Garoppolo, but he had 32 last week. I think as long as you're balanced, you're good for the 49ers. And hey, if the Rams are out there, if the Cowboys are out there playing dead set on the run, down after down after down, I don't care if Jimmy Garoppolo throws 40 times. If it's efficient, it's efficient. What you don't want is Jimmy throwing 40 times because you're behind by 2 touchdowns and you're trying to play catch up the whole game. But if the Cowboys defense dictates a 40-throw game, so be it. It probably won't, right? Because once Garoppolo starts burning them through the air, they're probably going to sag back, and then you run. That's when you come to the Rams formula, which was 32 passes and 31 runs. That was balance, and the 49ers executed it well last week. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one here. I wanted to ask and get to the question. How do you think the 49ers corners will match up against Dallas's receivers? That's the big question, right? CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Ambry Thomas, Emmanuel Mosley. I will say this. Dak Prescott's number 8 in deep passing efficiency this year. The 49ers are number 30 in deep ball coverage. DVOA. But the times may be changing on that front. Matthew Stafford's 2 deepest passes in that game last Sunday were both interceptions, Emmanuel Mosley and Ambry Thomas, to walk it off. A lot of that had to do with the 49ers pass rush getting to Matthew Stafford. Even if it didn't get to him on that game-winning interception, it got close. And by that point, he had already been hit so many times that he was inaccurate, that he was rattled in the pocket. So rush and coverage are going to need to work together to help out Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Mosley against CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. But it's going to be a huge test for them. I don't know how it's going to go. I do know that it's a team effort, and I do know that they're getting better. And I do know that if the 49ers offense stays on the field, hogs the ball, Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Mosley will be able to be on the sideline. That's going to be good for the 49ers. The 49ers defense isn't that terrible on third down. They were really bad at certain spots. They're middle of the pack defensively, but they were terrible against the Titans. They were terrible in the first half against the Rams. They turned it around in the second half against the Rams. And obviously that Titans game, I don't know. When you look back at that Tennessee game, it was a Thursday game. Thursday games can be a little rougher for the defense as far as third down conversions and, just general fatigue. So maybe that was the case against the Tennessee Titans in the second half. But if you take those 2 games out, the 49ers haven't been that bad on third down this year. Yep, K'Wan Williams is going to be back. How can the 49ers neutralize a guy like Parsons? This is going to be my last answer because we're 45 minutes in. But, to neutralize a guy like Micah Parsons, you run at him. He's not a good run defender. He's good at everything else. But you establish that run game. You run at him. You could run at number 11. That's how you neutralize him. I mean, if you want to neutralize the pass rushing, it's going to be an important game. Alex Mack is going to be very, very vital in this game because the tape I watch, Parsons comes in through that A-gap. Parsons is going to test the A-gap. 49ers may do some chipping. They could keep Bosa in the max protect, help out Tom Compton on the right side. you're Parsons, you probably don't even try to test Trent Williams on the left side. But if you start getting slowed down on the right side by some of the stuff the 49ers are doing, he's going to come straight up the middle. And that's where Alex Mack, the veteran 49ers center, that's where he's going to have to read and react and adjust the protection on the fly to make sure the 49ers get a piece of Micah Parsons so that he's not, coming in free rusher at Jimmy Garoppolo. There were too many free rusher situations against the Rams, especially in the first half on Sunday. And Garoppolo did well to overcome it, but you don't want to flirt with disaster and turnovers again against the Cowboys. So Mack is going to be huge in this game. Kittle's going to be huge in this game. Garoppolo himself has to identify where this complicated pressure is coming from. And hey, everybody uses it as a pejorative, a negative term, but managing the game is not a bad thing. Managing the game wins football games. Managing the game is not easy. If it were easy, then everybody, Trey Lance would be starting and the 49ers would have already traded Jimmy Garoppolo. Managing the game has become something that people don't like as much ever since Madden came out and they like to play video games. But risk management, pass protection management, run game management, those are all huge, huge things to do. I mean, and at the end of the day, Garoppolo, led the league in yards per attempt this year. So obviously he's not just checking down every single time. He's setting up the yards after the catch. He's picking up the yards, but the avoiding the negatives is just as important as yielding the positives. And to neutralize a guy like Micah Parsons, you have to be ready to avoid the negatives, and it's going to be a team effort to do that. All right, guys, thank you so much. I went through so many of these keys. Quick recap. Handle Dallas's edge rush. That's Parsons, Randy Gregory, and DeMarcus Lawrence. Run right at Parsons and Randy Gregory, but don't bother running at DeMarcus Lawrence. That guy is a good run defender. Win the aggression match with Trevon Diggs. Don't play scared. Playing scared is not going to get you anywhere. But do realize that Dallas has a league-leading 26 interceptions, including 11 for Diggs, which is the most in the NFL. So a lot of pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo in this game. That's why I have Jimmy Garoppolo right there on the picture. Force Dak Prescott to throw into tight coverage. That means playing good man coverage on CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. There's a lot of pressure in this game on K'Wan Williams is going to be back, on Emmanuel Mosley and on Ambry Thomas. There's always pressure on the pass rush. That's where it all starts for the 49ers. That's how this team is built. That rush is roaring. It needs to continue to do so against Tyron Smith and company for Dallas. For that pass rush to roar, that run defense has to be there. Can't have one without the other. The 49ers absolutely smothered the Rams because they stopped the run last week. More of the same needs to happen. Don't forget special teams and embrace the moment. Good times. I'm going to be back on with some more stuff this weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the live talking about 49ers and Cowboys. This was fun. Everybody, take care.